So here's an interesting way to work with the reed pen. First, I'm going to do the contour lines with an overlapping technique where I'm observing the contours and I'm observing what goes in front and what goes behind. It's a great way to be able to learn how to just commit to a drawing. It doesn't have to, be terribly accurate. The part that needs to be accurate is what's in front and what's in behind, and what is behind as far as the form goes. So therefore, there's a kind of order to the strokes as far as I choose to put them in. And I'm observing very carefully which form comes first. So for example, here we have the breast is on top of the chest. The arm is also on top of the chest. And actually, you can see how the shoulder overlaps the triceps. And this muscle is behind the shoulder muscle. Sometimes you have to stop and think to really make sure you get the right thing in front, because you don't want to. And once you sort of lose track, it's hard to fix it. But after a while, you can get into a kind of a flow. And you'll notice one stroke for at least every body segment, or at least every part of a body segment. And I don't necessarily have to put in all the details. Just a few will suffice. Like many of the techniques that I do, they're what I call high risk. You have to just go out on a limb and take a chance. And that adds a lot of sort of vitality to what you do, and it really increases your learning curve immensely, very quickly. Observation is obviously the key here. Taking the time to make sure that you get what's in front. For example, this knee. Well, the knee actually sort of sits on top of both parts, the upper and lower leg. So just through a little bit of overlapping, we're able to show that. And it creates a very convincing sense of depth. It's the same situation here, where the entire upper leg overlaps with the knee, overlaps the lower. Okay. So one thing about the reed pen is that the ink goes on so wet that, as you can still see, it's, even though I went fairly slowly for me, there's still, the ink is quite wet. So I'm going to take advantage of that fact now by picking up some of those wets and using them to create the impression of shadows and liven this contour drawing up quite a bit in the process. So I'm actually brushing or painting with just plain, clear, good old H2O. There's still a tiny bit of some magenta in there, but that won't hurt at all. Matter of fact, that makes me think I might want to have just a little bit of that in the water for a little tint. Okay, here we go. The secret is not to pick up too much ink, just barely enough. And the big key, just like the observation that you do with the model, is also the observation that you do with your drawing. You have to look at what you're doing and evaluate it and react quickly. But I think what makes this technique so effective is there's a unity between both levels of the technique. We know that basically you've got the dark tones of the contours, and when you get the lighter tones picking up the shadows, it's naturally very, very harmonious. Surprising even. So that's kind of fun.